Hi everyone, this is Nicole Scaduto and I'm going to be talking to you about the United States airline industry. As most of you know, this is a hot topic within society today since it is relevant to all consumers who are traveling within the United States or traveling outside the United States. My group decided to look at 3 different airline industry companies. So first we had Southwest, then we had American Airlines, and then we also had JetBlue. My group worked really hard to find relevant information about the companies from a industry analysis as well as the business analysis, which ties together, and that's what we're going to be outlining in our presentation today. I think that you'll find it's very interesting since you all have probably taken a flight within the last year, if not 2 years, and it is a relevant topic for you as a consumer of any type of transportation for travel, whether it's leisure or business. I can say that I've taken a bunch of trips within the last year and I've had a variety of different airline services and accommodations within each flight. The prices range depending on the time of year, so that is always an interesting thing to keep in mind. On a personal note, I was trying to go to a New Year's Eve in Florida and the flights were quadruple the price that they were in March, so we decided to take a plane in March, take a trip in March rather than close to a holiday. So it's very interesting as a consumer really to understand how the industry works and what makes these companies tick, and we're going to go into that a little further within the next couple of slides. So if we go to the next slide, this is going to start off with the industry analysis. So the industry analysis, I'm going to be talking about how pricing, volume, and growth is affected within the industry for airlines. So over time, the airline industry has experienced a large amount of deregulation, which allows these airlines to have a lot more freedom and liberty to do as they please. So when airlines first started up and running, the government had a very big hold on how the airlines were able to operate. And as a result, it was extremely challenging for them to go about their business and expand since the regulations really took a toll on their day-to-day. So due to high amounts of competition, and a lot of airlines began to merge as a result as well. So some of the top airlines that really were back probably even 10 years ago might not even be relevant right now or even available within the industry. So that's definitely something that's very interesting, and within our PowerPoint, we're going to be talking about how these companies were affected by the amount of competition and how they navigate that. So within every industry, it's important to note that there is competition, and creating a competitive advantage helps these companies set themselves apart, especially because they're all offering a similar service to their consumers. So another thing to note is the price of flights is now determined by technology for airlines. So as we move into having technology being advanced rapidly, it's growing, it affects every single industry in every way. It's interesting to note that there are ways for the airlines to determine what these prices are going to be even before they look at the, competitive landscape. So they're deciding these prices based on a basic formula. So a lot of companies, have created economy fares, which offers limited amenities to compete with minimal service, low-cost carriers. So as I mentioned, a lot of companies have been forced to merge, but in addition, they're creating their own expansion into low-cost offerings. As a result, these low-cost offerings are really taking over the industry, and a lot of the commercial airlines are trying to compete with them. So a lot of them are creating these low-cost economy fare, which has no frills or no extra details, and a lot of companies are interested in mirroring this because it's been so successful. So as airlines started to charge additional fees for specific accommodations that were once baked into the cost of the flight. So as you know, within every industry, prices shift from day to day, and in order to keep up with the increased cost to actually be able to operate, these businesses need to keep up and inversely charge their consumers in another way. So some things that used to be baked into the cost of a flight now are not available. So for instance, extra legroom, extra amenities such as TVs, headphones, different things of that nature really help to set up these extra costs, and people want them because they want to be comfortable. Some people don't like to fly, and they will pay for the additional amenities. And then there's some people who don't understand that these additional amenities should just be within the original cost, and they will resolve to having a low-cost option that doesn't include any of these. So many airline industries are creating these low-cost options to solidify a competitive advantage within the industry. As I mentioned, it is something that they, need in order to stay competitive, or as a result, they'll probably have to merge, or worst comes to worst, they're going to have to go under and not be within the industry anymore. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is profit margins within the industry. So there are many costs that airlines incur in order to operate daily. So two of the main costs that airlines companies face, which is pretty straightforward, it's those higher fuel costs and increasing labor costs. So as a result of the industry growing rapidly, they need to uptick their labor for their employees, and also higher fuel costs. So fuel, oil prices, you see this in a day-to-day if you have a car or, you commute to work. There's definitely an increase in every aspect of society. Train tickets go up constantly. So every quarter they're increasing them for that monthly ticket. I take the Long Island Railroad, so this is something that I experience with my 2 years of commuting into the city. It's just the nature of the business, and this is something that the airlines definitely need to take into account in order to make sure that their operating costs actually even out and that they're able to even make somewhat of a revenue. So in a lot of the newspaper articles that I read, so for instance, American Airlines Chief Executive Doug Parker had a quote stating fares are too low for oil prices this high on their recent earnings call. So, even the CEOs of the companies are really finding it difficult to make ends meet and actually incur a profit. The rising operating costs resulted in American Airlines being down $757 million. So in that case, they're really trying to stay up, but due to all these higher costs and things, they're not finding it very easy. So even the CEO is publicly stating that it's just too high of these oil prices for them to operate positively. And then another thing to note is in comparison to the cost of flights, the profit per passenger is extremely low. So at that point, these airlines aren't even making a profit for all that they're doing. So as you can see on the next slide, who's growing, who's shrinking? A lot of airline carriers have shifted adding into low-cost carriers within their portfolio.